What if I told you that most editors making 100K a year aren't editing for creators? They're editing for a boring industry that is way easier to work with and that doesn't care about going viral. In this video, I'm going to show you exactly what that industry is, how it made me $1 million from editing before I turned 30, and 9 reasons why it's the fastest path to a 6-figure, fulfilling editing career without the burnout. First, I'm going to show you the biggest problem with editing for content creators that no one talks about. So at 19 years old, I needed to pay for film school, but I was struggling to get editing jobs. And when I did land one, my hourly rate ended up being less than minimum wage. Only a few years later, I booked my first broadcast TV commercial for 10x what I was charging before. And that's when something clicked. Think of editing income like a ladder. At the bottom, you've got social media shorts, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube shorts. Then we step up to long form, maybe YouTube videos or podcasts. I'd also put indie films in this category, which is what I worked on for minimum wage. Above that are corporate or brand films. Next is broadcast TV, commercials, or unscripted shows. And at the very top, we have scripted television and Hollywood features. Most editors are stuck on a rung of the ladder that is probably never going to pay what you want to earn. And the editors making 100K aren't necessarily better than you. They've just found a way to move higher up the ladder. So reason one is not all editing pays the same. And once you learn how to start moving up the ladder yourself, you'll realize that you actually break through that income ceiling and you find that editing can actually be a great career. And if you want to shortcut the process of moving up the ladder by working on high-end spec commercials for your show reel directly with me, click the link in the description to check out my editing program. Most YouTube creators are not making much money, and if they are, it's very unpredictable. That means they have to keep their budgets low, and one of the first places they try to cut costs is editing. Compare that with TV commercials. These are usually big brands that have paid an ad agency maybe millions of dollars to produce a campaign. This means simply that the editing budgets are higher. In 2024, I edited a single commercial campaign that paid $40,000 for 4 minutes of content. When a company is dropping 7 figures on an ad agency and a production company, something changes. They aren't looking to cut costs. They want to find the editor who can deliver what they need and they're willing to pay for it. So reason 2 is businesses have budgets and creators don't. And when you make the switch to editing for businesses with healthy budgets, you will have fewer of those awkward conversations about your rate and more energy for the actual craft of editing. I started editing when I was 15 years old, but sadly it wasn't my first job. I actually worked at a candy store in a theme park. True story. So imagine to close up that candy store for the day, I had to sell $2,000 worth of candy. What would be more difficult? Selling $2,000 worth of candy to one person or selling a dollar's worth to 2,000 different people? It's the same amount of money, right? But 2,000 transactions would be exponentially harder than one. It would drain all my physical and mental energy. Editing is similar. You can hit 100K by doing 5 $20,000 projects or 240 $500 projects. Same income, but the amount of hours and hustle it takes to secure 240 projects and clients is 10 times harder. So reason 3 is fewer clients and bigger checks equal a better life. Is it boring only working on 5 projects a year? Maybe, but there's less chasing clients, less pitching, more time editing, and more time outside of editing, like spending time with your family or even a hobby. Wouldn't that be nice? Have you ever booked an editing project and you're handed 5 times the footage that you expected? I once bid a project for a 3-minute video, so I was expecting maybe an hour of footage tops, but I was handed 6 hours of footage, and I had already accepted a flat rate for the project. So it was a nightmare because all that time I spent sifting through that extra footage was time I wasn't being paid for. Compare that to commercials where I'm given 20 minutes of footage to craft a 30-second piece, and it's not random footage, but carefully crafted takes of each shot and each scene. It's a completely different level of precision. So reason 4 is you start with a reasonable amount of footage. So instead of spending days or weeks organizing and searching through footage that you're not being paid to look at, you're diving into the details of making something creatively successful that you can be proud of. But there's something even worse than booking a project where there's 5 to 10 times more footage than you expected. It's getting a massive amount of footage with no script, no storyboard, not even a creative brief, and you're expected to create something from nothing with almost no input. This happened to me a lot at the start of my career, and one of the worst parts was the clients themselves didn't really know what they wanted. So it's revision after revision of trial and error, again, chipping away at your effective hourly rate until it's dwindling to almost nothing. But the world of commercials is the opposite. An ad agency or marketing team gives you a script, and a director gives you storyboards. So instead of wasting days or weeks going down rabbit holes that lead nowhere, you spend your time creatively elevating the vision that's already been given to you. Is starting from a script boring? Maybe, but there's a great freedom that comes from boundaries in the creative process. So reason 5 is you cut to a script, not from nothing, which means less time wasted putting together cut after cut after cut, trying to guess what the client wants, and instead carefully crafting a piece that elevates a clear creative vision. Have you ever spent a full day editing a short interview clip, not because it was complex, but because the person behind the camera just couldn't get it right, like stumbling over words, losing energy mid-take, and never quite nailing the emotion? Well, your whole job then becomes more like damage control. So you're not editing, you're kind of trying to resuscitate a dying video. And no matter how good you are, you can only polish or improve a performance so far. Editing commercials with trained actors is the opposite. I recently cut a spot where an actor gave me 6 different readings of a line, not because they messed up, but because each one had a slightly different emotion. So my job wasn't to save their performance, it was to choose the take that worked best in the scene. So instead of feeling like you're cleaning up someone's mess, it feels more like you're collaborating with another craftsman. So reason 6 is you're editing actors, not amateurs, which means the work you're putting on your show reel actually showcases your editorial instincts, not your ability to hide someone else's mistakes. So you start getting hired for more creatively fulfilling work. And if you want to work on high-end spec commercials with beautiful footage and real actors that you can actually use on your show reel, click the link in the description to check out my editing program. When you edit for a content creator, the relationship is essentially service-based. They tell you what they want, you execute it. There's not a lot of creative collaboration. It can be really one-sided. And it's hard to get to a place where you're trusted creatively and your opinions and ideas are valued. Working with a director on a commercial is completely different. A director comes in with a point of view, a vision, and usually a genuine interest in what you, as an editor, bring to the table. And because you're both trying to serve the piece, the work actually gets better through collaboration. Your ideas sharpen their vision pushes your ideas further. You're on the same team, and the result is often creatively successful work that you're proud of. So reason 7 is you're collaborating with a director, not a content creator, which means when you finish a successful project with a director, they call you back, not because you're cheap or available, but because your creative instincts elevated their work. Early in my editing career, I thought the path to making more money was learning more skills. If I could edit, color grade, and mix sound, I'd be a one-stop shop, and I thought clients would pay a premium for that. So for one season, I spent months learning color grading software, and I was also buying up all the sound mixing plugins I could find. Then I started applying for projects that wanted an all-in-one editor, colorist, sound mixer, and I quickly discovered that the rates were not higher. They were actually lower. That felt kind of insane to me until I figured out why. Big budget projects don't want one person doing everything. They have the budget to hire the absolute best person for each specific role. The colorist on your favorite commercial or film has spent their entire career doing nothing but color, most likely, and the sound mixer has done the same. They don't want a generalist, they want specialists, and they want an editor who knows how to collaborate with those specialists and lead the post process. So the moment you stop trying to do everything and start learning how to lead a post team is the moment bigger projects become available to you. So reason 8 is instead of doing everything, you lead a team, which means less burnout, better results, and work that gets elevated by people who are genuinely good at their craft. And when the colorist and mixer are world class, the work on your reel looks and sounds world class, which opens doors to even bigger projects. I know a lot of editors who feel stuck in their careers because they're spending all their time poking around job boards like Upwork. And even when they land something, they're sort of starting from zero every single time. It's hard to build trust. They're just kind of a name on a long list of applicants competing on price. That's the reality when you're working on the lower rungs of the ladder. Commercial editing doesn't work that way. Nobody hands you a $40,000 project without knowing you first and trusting you, which means the people doing that work aren't competing with hundreds of strangers on a job board. They're getting calls, direct calls, from people who want to hire them. Because when a brand has millions of dollars behind a campaign, they're not browsing Upwork, they're calling the editor they trust. So reason 9 is commercials are booked through relationships, not job boards. Which means instead of grinding for every single job, your reputation does the work for you. The phone rings, the project is yours, and you didn't have to pitch a single person to get it. And if you're ready to land jobs in a higher paying niche by building a new commercial show reel directly with me, click the link in the description to check out my editing program. Now you know the 9 reasons commercial editing is the fastest path to 100K. But none of it will help you if you're too busy scraping together dozens of small editing jobs just to pay the bills. So watch this video next to learn 12 lessons that will help you land your first 5-figure editing job. Happy editing.